All right, I'm Superintendent Bill Furbish, and welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you for Tunes and Treats letting us come and rein in on their parade a little bit. But tonight you're going to hear some great things about the work that we've been doing to prepare for the Pelham Memorial School project. And before we get started, I'd just like to introduce a few people that are here with me this evening that are going to be available to answer some questions as well. We have Bonnette, Page, and Stone. We have Keith and Barry here, who are our construction team. And they will be here to answer any questions if it pertains to them. We have Gino from Trident, a company we're very familiar with, as well as Bonnette, Page, and Stone, who helped with the construction of the high school. New to the team this time is Harriman. We have Lisa and Mark here this evening with us to help present all the work that the RUC and the steering committee has been putting together. If you're a member of the RUC committee, can you just please stand and recognize yourselves? Thank you so much for being here. So a lot of work has been done to get to this point. We looked at the possibility of a new building, the price tag of a new building, and what our needs are for our students, what the needs are for the community. And then we said, no, that wasn't it. And then we went back to the drawing boards and we came up with what you're going to see tonight. And it's a combination renovation project with new construction. We felt the price tag was what was needed, and it's also what we feel that our students will benefit from, and it meets their needs as well. So tonight you're going to learn a little bit about that and what we're presenting to you. I just want to let you know that we also are videotaping it this evening, so we can share that with others who could not be here this evening. So just to be aware that we are videotaping this, and we'll make the slideshow available to everyone. So first thing, we want to talk about a brief history of the journey and how we got here. And if you just take a brief moment and look around the room and see the mats being stored in here, and if you've ever spent time in the middle school, we can probably pretty much skip this section. But if you spent some time or taken a tour, you know why we're here. We need this project. And once they completed the high school project, it became very well aware that the facilities were in dire need of renovation and updating for our students. And tonight, Ms. Mahaki and myself are going to talk a little bit about the impact to students and why this is needed. And then we're going to turn it over to Mark and Lisa, who are going to talk about the actual building and the project and the process that they went through to get to the point we are today. So first off, we're going to talk about an upper elementary school versus middle school.
Okay, many people don't, I'm Stace Mahaki and I'm the principal here. Welcome everybody, thank you for coming out. So many people do not know that we are actually not an official middle school. There are minimum state standards that we have to meet for criteria, and we don't meet those. So we are actually considered an upper elementary school in the state of New Hampshire. And the things that we are missing are a STEAM program, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, and our family consumer science, which is
home finances,
personal finances,
nutrition,
integrates cooking, integrates sewing, those types of things. So we are missing those two things in order to be qualified as an official middle school. So one of the things that we also want to integrate too is world language. It's not one of the standards that has to be met for the minimum standards for a middle school. However, it's something that we do offer at the middle school, but at this point in time, we offer it 60 days per year. So in 6th grade, they get 60 days, 7th grade, 60 days, and 8th grade, 60 days. So that's like the minimal amount possible that we can offer to our students, and we want to obviously, with this renovation project, be able to expand on that curriculum for our students. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, please.
So our space, like Mr. Furbish said, this is leaning posts, bumpers, that sort of thing. So we meet the space for our students. We definitely don't have the space here that we need to meet the needs of all of our students and being able to implement our curriculum appropriately. We don't have a lot of ADA compliance. If you ever walked into one of our areas where the bathrooms are, you'll see some pictures on that. You can barely have an arm stretch across to make sure you can get through. So obviously wheelchairs can't get in there. One of the things that we have back here is our service area for the kitchen. They're not ADA compliant, so even to navigate that area to get lunches, students in wheelchairs or with any type of disability have trouble navigating that area. So right now we do assist them.
No elevator.
We also don't have an elevator. We have a lift and one of our front stairwells where we have to block that stairwell when kids on the lift are going up and down, because as you're going up and down, the nurse is right there. So there's no way to get by. Maybe one person can get by. So as the kids are transitioning, if someone's using that lift, a light will flash, and when the light's flashing, the kids can't use it. So what happens is all the kids go, "Whoa, I can't use that stairwell," and then they have to turn around and go down the other hallway and use that. So you have this nice little bottleneck of all these kids clustering together saying, "Oh, turn around everybody, turn around everybody, turn around everybody," and going down a middle stairwell that's also not compliant as well, very small area. So
Don't forget bathrooms as well for ADA.
yeah, I did mention bathrooms to get into the bathrooms. We don't have a handicap bathrooms on the regular upstairs, downstairs. The only ADA compliant bathroom that we actually have is in the nurse's office, and these two bathrooms down here are ADA compliant. However, they are also very difficult to open because they open in instead of out. So, our occupational therapy and speech spaces, they are about, I think it's like a 20 by 20 space, if that. And they're shared. So kiddos that have speech services or occupational services and physical therapy meet in this one area that's split. There's no privacy for that area. They get services. We have piles of equipment, so obviously a safety issue there too. And as kids are getting services, there's interruptions, there's wondering what's going on the other side of that wall, which is a makeshift wall that we have to put up to make sure that there's a split area. And especially this time in middle school age, they're very much aware of their abilities and disabilities, and kids need that privacy to be able to work on the skills that they want, they are in need of, and we don't have that ability here right now. The space is very small, we don't have the privacy that's necessary, and we don't have the space for even storage or equipment. Occupational therapy, we have some kiddos with some significant disabilities where swings would be a benefit to them. We have no space to be able to do that. Physical therapy, to be able to go up and down stairs, work on those things with rings and things like that. We have no ability to do that to help them at this level. Can we keep going?
Yeah.
All right, so noise challenges. One of the nights that we were in here doing a public forum, it was raining. Even with the microphone, you couldn't hear. Things that happen outside when we weather itself. It's a challenge. We also have on the upstairs and downstairs, when you're on a downstairs floor, the teachers can attest to this, if they even move a chair or a table, it echoes on the downstairs. So every time that we are trying to implement curriculum on the downstairs floor, we are hearing the movement and motion of upstairs. We try to do little things like put little feet on the chairs to help minimize that noise level. Doesn't help. It's constant. So banging, steps, all the time. So lots of noise challenges there. Traffic patterns.
You've already spoke about.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. Our limited library space. One of the things that even the budget committee just walked through and said, we don't have very many books in our library. Well, we don't have very many books because we don't have enough space to be able to house enough books to offer our students. We do the best we can with what we have, as we always had, but our library space is minimal and it's outside. So a learning commons should be the center, the hub of our building. And to get to the library, to have a space where kids can work together or even work independently, they have to go all the way out to the portables outside.
Why don't you speak to the modular challenges?
The modular challenges. So safety, they have to literally go outside the building, uncovered, and come out and knock on the door to get in because that modular building is locked. So if no one's there, if they come out to go to the library and the librarian happens not to be there, they have to turn around and go back in. So there's no safety, there's no security out there. We have cameras, but there's no supervision for that point in time. Same with health and music are also outside. They have to go outside, knock on the door, and they're let in. There are no bathroom facilities out there, so if they ever have to leave their classroom, they have to go outside, go to the door to the building, and get buzzed in to be able to come in and use the facilities. That covers it.
Yep.
Natural lighting. You can see that we have windows here, and the way that our sun exposure is, it ends up either getting very hot or very cold, usually very hot in here. There's very little natural lighting in the classrooms. There's hardly any natural lighting in the hallway because they are blocked on both sides. Our gym natural lighting is also a problem because of the way that the exposure comes in. It's pretty significant. You can't see at certain points of the day. Heating and cooling challenges. Does anyone ever have a student who's on the upstairs during the hot weather? Well, there's a teacher, yes. Yep, teachers, students. It can be upwards of 90 degrees on a hot day, especially on this side with the sun beating down on the hot top. Comes right in. We have boilers going for hot water going, and it all comes right in. No air conditioning, and then that humidity also just settles right in there. So it can be very distracting to students, distracting to the educational process. Kids are very much challenged with trying to concentrate when they are brutally hot. We also have the blowers, the heating and cooling challenges, where it'll be freezing in one room, and then you walk into the next room and they're dying of heat because the regulation of that system is not there with regulating that fresh air. So those are continuous challenges that we have. This cafeteria gets very hot, especially in the hot months, or even with the cooking and the ventilation of that. The gymnasium as well. If you stay here for Tunes and Treats, you will experience that firsthand. You want to?
Yeah, I can wrap.
Okay.
So, if you've had a chance to go through the building, and we just posted a student video as well on the ACES website, and we're going to have a link to that as well. You'll see a lot of the exposed wires and pipes and different things, and it's not unsafe, it just really is not very sightly, and it's not a very welcoming type building. Even this evening, you either going to come in this door or the other door, and it's not a big welcoming type of building. And so you'll see that we really tried to take all this into account and solve for all of these things. And that's what is going to be presented to you this evening is how we solve for our students. I hope that you understand that facilities do have a direct impact on the quality of education that we can deliver our students. And if you have students in the building, you know what I'm talking about. And so it's time that we feel that the facilities are taken care of to get the students the education that they deserve, because the facilities do impact those students each and every day. They impact our staff, and they do have a great deal of importance to rectify this. So I'm going to turn it over to, you'll see the contacts. Pelham ACES is outside. They have a sign-up sheet to help out with this as we get going and as we start promoting this more and more. Help is always needed, so thank you to that organization and all their work they've done. We'll make all the contacts available for everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Harriman at this point. They're going to take about 15-20 minutes, and then we have about 10 minutes of questions at the end. If we don't get to all your questions this evening, we have note cards and pens. We are going to create an FAQ list, so if we don't get to answer your question this evening, be sure that we will be able to answer your question. So take the time and write it down, get it to us, and we'll make sure to answer it for you.
All right, good evening. Thank you very, very much, Bill, for doing most of our presentation. So I'm going to test how ambidextrous I am here with a clicker and a microphone. So our presentation really is going to encompass what we did as architects and engineers in evaluating the facility, the middle school. As Bill mentioned, we actually baseline the idea of renovating this facility versus constructing a new one. And there was enough here to really make sense to look at the possibility and opportunities to expand the programs here to accommodate a lot of the shortcomings. And so we'll get into that now. We have, as Bill also said, we have about 20 minutes to try to get through a lot of slides, so I'll do the best I can. These are the really exciting pictures. So, just a picture of the exterior wall of the building, and you can see the masonry at the top. It's a little dark there, but you can see some of the bricks are actually starting to spall out. There we go. And the exterior walls were built at a time when fuel costs weren't what they are today, and so there's a lack of insulation on the exterior walls as well. So the efficiency of these exterior walls and the condition of them, it's time to upgrade. As has been mentioned, we have limited accessibility. When this building was constructed, we didn't have an awareness of thinking about the requirements of people with mobility impairments and what that means for trying to get in and around a building. And so current accessibility requirements, which are now actually building code, not just civil rights legislation, now requires us to look at all the issues of accessibility to the different functions in the school building. The other thing is that the locker rooms are, has anyone been in the bunker of this building? Yeah, there we go. It's underneath the stage, right? So that's not accessible. So, and here's the lovely lift that Principal Mahakam discussed. And so again, it's sort of a measure that is partially successful when it works, but the idea that current accessibility codes require us to actually install an elevator. And the disruption of opening this up, there's a fairly narrow stairs anyway, and so when we open that up and use the lift, getting access to the second level, it actually is very disruptive in terms of the egress capacity of the stair and the traffic patterns of students moving through the corridors and the stair itself. This is for those of you very familiar with the school, this is a picture of the corridor. And so a couple things to note, that the lockers are past their sort of useful life. You can see the sort of doors that are bent and some hardware missing on some of them. But we don't have enough of them for the number of students. So the students share lockers, which is an interesting social experiment in itself. And then the corridors themselves, if you can imagine the number of students going through the corridors, it's a fairly narrow corridor. And so imagine the students getting things in and out of the lockers, and so that takes up another 6 feet of the width here. And then getting back and forth gets pretty tricky. The other thing that you notice is that we've got all of our utilities exposed in the hallways, and there's glass above the lockers into the classrooms. The glass is great for letting light back and forth, but it doesn't do a lot for acoustics. And so even when all the commotion is going on outside in the corridor, that really is disruptive to the learning environment itself. This used to be a closet, and so a lot of programs have been converted into spaces that normally weren't designed as occupiable spaces for a number of time. And so we have a lack of adequate ventilation in many of these spaces. The lighting isn't set up adequately, and there is a cold and hot side to the building. So if we could only somehow average the two together, we'd be doing all right, but it's really, really hot on one side and really cold on the other side. The science rooms, this is a picture of the science rooms right here. A couple things that again, with a building of this age, the casework gets a little worn down. And in thinking about the lab casework itself, it's not accessible, and we don't have a complement of science rooms that we do for the number of teams that we have that were really designed as science rooms. So there's some improvements we can do there. And then our favorite, of course, is the gym. And so there's going to be a great concert tonight in the gym. However, we've heard stories of when there actually is an athletic event, you have to be really careful because the bleachers pull out, and if your feet are hanging from the first row, you're actually in the play court, so you have to be really careful keeping your feet out of that. It's sort of pretty tough acoustically in that space. The floor needs replacement. The stage itself, when the bifold panels close or open for the stage, they actually project out into the play area as well. So actually becomes a safety concern in some ways in that area. The office for the PE teachers is actually in a converted closet, so it's a theme on a few of these spaces. And it's just an overall lack of adequate storage space, hence we have the cheering mats in here. The kitchen, this is what it looks like on the other side of that wall, and so it's a lot of original equipment. We call it vintage, so that from the original kitchen. So it's not as efficient as it needs to be, and newer equipment is also safer. And so the idea that also it's lacking some of the things that we would put in nowadays. We would have exhaust hoods from the dishwash area, so that it captures a lot of the moisture coming out. So. And this is actually what we're looking at, is this part of the serving line right here, and so it's been sort of modified over time, but lacks accessibility standards, and as I said, the equipment is old and outdated. And then there's the portables, the modulars. And if we think about the number of programs that are right now housed in there, and Lisa is going to share what the area of those spaces is, but a significant amount of the renovation work is simply looking at getting a safe condition where those programs that are being housed out there are inside of the building. And so that's a really important aspect of this project with that. So with that, I was pretty good getting through that quickly here. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who's going to talk a little bit about what we call the program, the spaces that are necessary inside of the building, spaces that you either have right now in the modulars or that you don't have. So Lisa?
Thank you, Mark. My name is Lisa Sullivan. I'm an architect with Harriman. And so our goal with this project, our task was really to understand what makes Pelham Memorial School, what is the essence of it? What is working well? What isn't working well? And so we had a series of conversations with stakeholders. We sat down with all of the teachers and staff. We gave them online surveys to first collect data. We reviewed and analyzed that data, then we sat down with each of them, and we had a call a storefront. And we set up shop, they came, they visited us, they told us, this is working well, this isn't working well, here's what we need to be a middle school. And so we collected all that data, analyzed the existing spaces, understanding what the spaces were, how they're used and what their sizes are, and how they compare to the New Hampshire standards for those spaces. This is a summary of the different spaces that we looked at, mostly highlighting the spaces that are needed to really make this a middle school. Unified arts, we talked a lot about STEM or STEAM, having that science, technology, engineering, and math space. Family and consumer science, both of those currently do not exist. So we had to find room in the building to accommodate those. And then the three programs that are out in the modulars, music, health, and band. So we have about 1,200 square feet each for STEM and family consumer science, 1,000 for music and band, music and health, and 3,000 for band. So it's a lot of square footage that we had to come up with just in the unified arts. And then the modular also has the library, so another 2,800 square feet had to be accommodated inside the building. Mark mentioned one of the major reasons we want to get kids out of the modulars is for safety and security. They're not necessarily a great learning environment, but just the safety and security alone is worth bringing them into the building, and also it creates that sense of belonging to the community within the school. One of the major components that we're missing in this school is the middle school team rooms. So middle school education is delivered in a team model. And really one of the big reasons for that is middle school is the transition from elementary school to high school. Elementary school, the students have that one-on-one relationship with the teacher. They're really building that trust and that respect and learning one-on-one. And now we're asking them to have moving around to different teachers, having a larger school, more students, and we really want to provide that sense of identity in each of these teams. And really the team room allows them to approach that model in a very digestible scale. And so they really create that community within the larger community. And the team room is where all of these classes can come together and do project work, or they can come out and do small group learning. So it's really critical in the middle school model. Special education spaces. You have several special education programs here, just not adequate space for those programs. So making sure that we provide proper space for those programs. And then meeting and administration area, as well as gymnasium, stage, and lockers, and making sure we have adequate space for those. So the concept floor plan you're going to start to see here on the right-hand side, and there'll be a slide that has this much larger, and we'll walk through it in detail. But what we've started to do is look at the benefits that this plan starts to bring to Pelham Memorial School. By utilizing the existing structure, it's less costly than building a new school. We analyzed both of those models. And in this construction project, it's assumed a 24 plus or minus month construction schedule, and that would be phased. And so in a phased project, we typically build the new additions first to create what we call swing space, to be able to move students into that space while we renovate the other areas. And we'll get into that in more detail as the project progresses. And then propose energy efficient features, so LED lighting and controls, energy recovery ventilation, so really a lot of stuff focusing on the building systems, making sure that they're as efficient as possible but also controllable, making sure that we have adequate daylight, and increased R value. So the R value in the walls is pretty low, so making sure in any of these additions that we're bringing that up to code and making sure that the windows are energy efficient as well. This is a site plan. So the existing building, for reference, is the light blue here. So we right now are right in this space. Tunes and treats will occur right here in the gymnasium. And then the existing parking is out front here. And so what we looked at doing was how do we add all of these spaces to the existing building. And one of the big areas is going to be these team rooms, which we'll get into in the floor plan. But wanting to add the larger spaces that we have to accommodate for that are missing or undersized start to be in this addition here. Just on a site plan, we have the main entry here. We have bus drop-off, which actually I think is more of the parent drop-off out here. I think it's mislabeled. The bus loop is around the building and the bus drop-off will be along here. And we've created another parking area across the top of this area here. We understand there's a lot of queuing that happens back through here, just trying to alleviate some of that congestion and provide additional parking. We look at relocating the outdoor classroom back over here, and this design also incorporates an outdoor courtyard, so outdoor learning, additional outdoor learning opportunities with a pedestrian connector, so it's more of a secure outdoor learning environment. We'll get into some of the additional benefits of that connector in a minute. Our athletic fields and district offices at the top. So the floor plan, right now, you enter the building right here. You come right into the boiler room. It's right in front of you, and you have the administrative office here. What we've done with this plan is we've moved the main entrance to right over here. This is labeled cafeteria as your current gymnasium. And so the reason we did this is we really want to get the library, cafeteria, gym, any of the public spaces on one side of the building, and all of the more sort of private spaces, classroom, educational spaces on the other, so that we can foster community use, be able to close down one half of the building and keep the other open at after hours for events such as this. And also from a safety and security standpoint too, we focus on making sure that we have several features throughout the building. One is a secure vestibule, and also look at areas to where we can secure off the building in the event that we need to. The library opens up to a town square, so really this is a big inviting entry through here to the gymnasium, and then we have all of the unified arts programs back in this area, so taking sort of the community of spaces that are out in the portable and still maintaining the adjacencies in these areas, and having the additional STEM lab off the library that all open up to the courtyard. One of the things that we heard loud and clear in the community forums is that the importance of the STEM program and really fostering innovation, experimentation, and pride. We heard Pelham pride over and over again. And so we worked with the community to create a design statement, and it's something that we'll use throughout the development of this design. But you can see it at the bottom of the slides here. The community came up with nurturing bright minds by fostering experimentation, exploration, and innovation. And so a lot of that came into creating some of the adjacencies of these programs and making sure that kids have access to a lot of engineering, science, and technology programs. And then on this side of the building, we have the classroom wing. And the big additions are these pods off the side here, as well as an elevator and stair up front. And by adding these areas here of science and collaboration space, what it's done is it's allowed us to take what was a classroom here and create the team room. And so now we've created neighborhood clusters of different teams throughout the school and integrated the special education spaces in those as well. So really being able to have the flexibility of the teams being anywhere within the school, but making sure that we've provided all of the program spaces that we need to be a middle school. We talked about the congestion in the corridors. One of the ways that we've alleviated that is creating a nice, sizable vestibule and entry area for people to gather, whether it be after hours events. But then by creating this corridor connector in the back, we've now created a loop. So there's different ways to move around the building, and it's not just you get to the end, have to turn around and go back. So it's not everybody headed in one direction if we're all letting out and having to go to the cafeteria at one time. There's multiple ways to get there. And then on the second floor, we have additional classrooms to create the different number of teams that we need, as well as adequate SPED spaces, world language, and computer. And this is a rendering of what it would look like. So the, whoops, let me go back. The main entrance is here. You can see the bus loop around. These white masses on the side are those additional science and collaboration spaces, the elevator and stair here, and then using color to really identify the entry, and it will be used as a wayfinding mechanism throughout the building. So really providing the spaces you need as well as the site circulation. And that's what the entry will look like. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Gino to walk us through some of the cost of the project.
Thank you. Everyone wants to know what this is going to cost, and we wanted to make sure, because the first number we put out is the number. We've worked very well with Bonnette, Page and Stone, the first time with Harriman, but I think this team we feel very comfortable with has done enough schools that we are very confident we will deliver this project for that number, $31,054,000. The project is made up of three components very quickly. The hard cost, which is really construction. Soft costs with professionals, FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, technology, and then you have other items, miscellaneous consultants, legal fees, state permits, and other costs. And then the last item you have is a contingency item. And people say, why do you need a contingency? Because this is construction. We're not building in a closed environment. Things happen, things have to move. Typically, that ranges anywhere from 5% to 30%. If you're doing a hospital project, it would be more like 30% because of the complexity. In the school we have renovation in addition, so we came around 7.5%, which we feel very confident that we're going to use that. And again, I always tell everybody, plan on using that. If there's any savings, believe me, you'll get it back. I think BP&S has returned on every project we work with them some money back. So this is it. This is $31,054,000. This is escalated through the project right now, so we're not going to come back to the community and say we need more money. It's the last thing I'm going to show up and do. I'll probably run out of town before I ever came back to do that. But again, this is what we have very quickly.
Great, thank you, Gino. So with that, we have, I think, a few minutes. I know the other thing we want to stress is that we've got some boards that have details of the design that we've shared. Those are in display in the hallway. They're going to stay around where they'll be distributed in the various schools in the district. But we also want to give an opportunity for folks, if you have questions about the project, any question, please feel free to ask. And we, as we said, we also have some note cards. If you don't want to raise your hand and ask, you can certainly send those around. But
it should be around on every table.
Very good.
What's the impact? Do we have an idea of what the schedule of the construction will be and what the impact to the existing student body will be?
So the question was, do we have a sense of what the construction schedule would be and its impact to the student body? And so we're working with Bonnette, Page and Stone, BP&S, and they're here. You can wave their hands. There you go. And so one of the things that, and as Lisa described, what we're trying to do is establish a sense of the swing space. And so the idea is to create new space that it allows us to be as least disruptive to the classroom operations. Right now, we're just starting to dig into the details of how that phasing plan is going to work throughout the school calendar to understand that. But in other programs, what we've done, or other schools where we've done a renovation, we've actually made it as an opportunity for learning too. So the idea that students can start to, it's really exciting to actually be able to see it take place as at the same time that you're there. They're very, very safe. They cordon off all of the areas where construction happens so that you're never interfacing, the students never interface in a construction area. The other thing that they do is take full advantage of the summers. While we're enjoying a little bit of time in the summer, they're not. They're working really hard because that's the most time that they can get a lot of work done on that. So, Gino, yeah.
We wanted to make sure the safety factor was addressed here because we want to make sure that no student is put in any unsafe situation. They'll have a badging system, so anyone working on this project will have a badge and will have a number associated with that person. It'll be cordoned off. If you experienced the high school project, there were no incidences at all. We don't want mixing of workers with students. So it'll be done in a very methodical and very safe manner. And it's monitored almost, I think, daily by the superintendent. There's constant communication with the superintendent, but it'll be a very, very safe transition, least disruption we can. We can't go around with rubber hammers and rubber nails, but any high noise events are usually done either after the students are out or during the summer. If there are classroom, if there is testing or things of that nature, we do something else. So it'll be a very safe and very programmed environment.
Other thoughts? Yeah.
I actually have 2 questions. So was this proposal based on the current number of students, or is there room for an increase if there's an increase in student volume?
It's a great question. So that's your first question, I think, in terms of what was the enrollment that this is based on, and is there room for expansion? And this was actually a conversation that came up with our presentation to the school board, and they told us to go back and take a look at it, make sure that we have enough room for expansion. So what we've done is actually been pretty clever about how we've built in flexibility for the floor plan. And so you'll see the collaboration spaces of 3 collaboration spaces on each floor, which is 6 total. And the idea is those are sized large enough to be able to take some of the resource rooms, for instance, on the other side of the corridor. Those resource rooms can get relocated into the collaboration spaces. They're designed large enough to accommodate those programs. So very easily we can then transition those, and those resource rooms are the size of a classroom. And so we've increased the capacity without actually having to build anything by moving some things around. Now you do lose a little bit of the collaboration space, but we've also added plenty of the team room areas for that collaboration model. So the idea is to try to provide that relief valve. The worst thing in the world we want to do is spend this money, renovate the building, add on this, and then be too small after it opens. And so we've been very, very cognizant of how we can accommodate that. So the enrollment numbers, I don't have the exact figures with me, the approximate, this is accommodating the approximate enrollment you have right now, which is around 500. I don't know what the October numbers are, and then it can increase, this one can accommodate about 10% above that. So that was the first question. I think you had a 2-part.
Just wondering, the second question was in regards to the financial impact and the timeline. How is this going to be presented to the community, and what's going to be the tax impact? Is it going to be in phases, or?
So the question was, how will the information about the tax impact of this be communicated to the community? And for that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent.
So at this point, we obviously work with the town and our business administrator and understand we go to bond is what we will. We'll get a rate on the bond, and we will have that information as we get closer to that. At this point, we don't have the tax impact at this point. However, it will be a warrant article this March. And the whole community has an opportunity to vote on that bond, and that's why we have these informational nights so you can make an informed decision when that comes on the ballot this March.
Other question? Oh, there we go. We've got a whole bunch going up here. I'll go to this side of the room, then we'll go back over there. Yes.
So what, are you including
I'm
kidding. If anybody knows me,
no judgment, but that's. So who wants to go first? We're gonna flip a coin, or go ahead.
So, I see that I don't think you've added any space on this side of the building.
On the classroom side, the question is, have we added space onto the classroom side of the building?
Well, that's kind of the question. So
Yeah.
if you haven't added any space, how are we picking up more classrooms?
Yeah. So
These have all been added.
So these are all new. These right here. There's 3 here, and then that translates up to the second level as well. So they're actually these pods that one for each team. So there's 6 teams in the school, and there are these rooms that are added. So there are 6 new science rooms that are actually added onto as well as 6 new collaboration rooms.
Okay, I guess I didn't understand that those were classrooms. I thought they were collaboration rooms.
Oh yeah. So sorry. So this area is a science room, and then there's a collaboration room on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So and so the second. So.
Thank you. So, is this include 5th grade?
Does this include 5th grade? This does not include 5th grade. I don't know if, no.
No, we had extensive conversations with the community, with the school board, and the decision was not to include 5th grade into this model. 5th grade will be remaining at Pelham Elementary School.
So, what's the current population and what's your capacity? What do you estimate your capacity at with this building, and what is our current population?
Yeah, so the capacity number was the proposed capacity is approximately 525 students. So the existing capacity I think is around 500. But like we said, there's the opportunity to expand the capacity by making those moves and capturing those collaboration rooms. So
If needed.
If needed.
Yeah.
So what's the current?
Current enrollment is I think just around 500. 453. Okay, so.
So, just to point out, I know there's lots more questions, but we promised Ms. Saunders that we would be done exactly at 6:29, and we do appreciate that. This presentation will be posted on the ACES website, on our school website. We're going to send the link out to all the parents in the community as well, and the contact information is there. And if you take the time to write your questions down, please leave them on the table. We'll come around and collect them. I wish we had time to get to all your questions this evening, but since we tagged along on her presentation, we want to make sure we're done by 6:30. But I will stick around for a couple more minutes, and as will others. And so, if you're not headed right over to Tunes and Treats, we could have a little bit more conversation here. I just want to say a huge thank you to Harriman and all the work that they've done putting this proposal together, for Trident and all their work to getting it to where it's at, and then to Bonnette, Page, and Stone for all their help as well, and the RUC Building Committee and the school board and Stacy Mahakian and the teachers. Thank you so much for all the work to get it to this point. I think that you can clearly see the need, and you can clearly see why we're so passionate about this and why we want this for our students and why we want this for our community. So thank you all for coming out this evening. We'll stick around for a couple more minutes. Thank you so much.